Okay, so welcome to all of you, and today I'm going to talk to you about my beloved city, Ajmer. Why I say beloved? Because it's the city of my childhood. I spent 15 years over there, and it's really, really dear to my heart. And it gives me immense pleasure today to talk to you about Ajmer and its historical background, its iconic monuments and the hidden treasures, some hidden architectural gems which you've never heard about before, and which we will talk about and we'll see in pictures, and it's going to make all of these lovely monuments come alive. So, let me begin with talking to you about the historical background of this magnificent city called Ajmer. So I'll start from around the 7th, 8th century AD, and I will start with the 7th century, and Ajmer gets its name from um Ajay Meru. Ajay Meru, if I can explain that, means invincible hills. So Ajay Meru was the original name of Ajmer, and it was founded by the Chauhan Rajputs, a king called Ajay Raj, and King Ajay Raj of the Chauhan Shakambari Chauhan Rajputs founded this great city of Ajmer in the 8th century. And as I said, Ajay Meru was the original name, which later got changed over the phase of time to Ajmer. And um, so, Ajay Raj was one of the ancestors of the great king Prithviraj Chauhan. So, we come from the 8th century down to the 12th century now. So, for about 400 500 years, the Chauhan capital was Ajmer, and it continued till 1192. So, Muhammad Ghori uh, fought this battle of Tarayan with Prithviraj Chauhan in 1191, the first battle, and the second battle was fought in 1192, which Prithviraj Chauhan lost, and that laid the foundation of the Muslim rule in the country, and yeah, and the era of the Chauhan Rajputs sort of ended in 1192. Um, and thereafter, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that then Akbar in around 1558 annexed Ajmer to the Mughal Empire. So Ajmer Suba, as we know, was annexed by Akbar in 1558. As we all know, he won the second battle of Panipat in 1556, and then in 1570 he built this fort, palace, of which we're going to see later on in this program, in this webinar, and Akbar was extremely fond of Ajmer because uh, he almost felt as if Salim, his son Jahangir, was blessed. He came into this world because of the blessings of the Khwaja Sahab Ajmer, and he used to come here very often. That's why the palace and the fort got built. He came here as many as 12 times, many times barefoot. Then, not many people know Jahan Ara Begum was born in Ajmer, and it's not a coincidence that she was a great Sufi. She called herself a Fakira, and she, in fact, wrote the biography of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, and so the city of Ajmer produced Jahan Ara Begum. And later on, also, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb, even Aurangzeb. So all of these people contributed a lot to the advancements, and they donated freely to the Dargah. And not many people know Aurangzeb made the Sandali Masjid at the Ajmer Dargah, going very much against his image that he had an enmity towards the Sufis. So much for that. Okay, and then came the British in the late 19th century, early 18th century, mid 18th century, the 19th century. They came, and with the British came they set up a big railway and locomotive base in Ajmer, and we have these beautiful colonial railway bungalows all over Ajmer. And with them came lots of missionaries. So there's so many good schools in Ajmer. I went to one of them, and um, there are lovely churches which dot the entire city. And so yeah, so that is in one wide sweep what Ajmer means to me. And now we'll dive into this virtual heritage walk by going from one monument to the other, some very well known, some totally unknown, but all of them spectacular. So let's go. Yeah. Okay, so the first monument we see here is a beautiful structure called Adhai Deen Ka Jhopda. This is the entrance of the Adhai Deen Ka Jhopda, and so let me put few things in context before we begin. Uh, Adhai Deen Ka Jhopda, as the name suggests, was we'll come to why it was called Adhai Deen Ka Jhopda a little later. I'll first tell you the conditions in which it got built. So, as we all know, in 1192, Muhammad Ghori defeated Prithviraj Chauhan, and he then asked his slave general Kutubuddin Aibak to sort of demolish these temples. There used to be temples, Jain Hindu temples in a Sanskrit college at the site of Adhai Deen Ka Jhopda, which were demolished by Kutubuddin Aibak at the behest of Muhammad Ghori, and uh, using those materials, a magnificent mosque was constructed. So we see beautiful Jain and Hindu architecture pillars which are holding up this entire structure. It's beautiful. I'll make you see it in a bit. And so Alexander Cunningham, the Director General, the founder of Archaeological Survey of India, in fact, he did a lot of work here. He did lots of excavations and preservation work when the British came, and he said this is one of the most important monuments which has not got its due. And I am starting this webinar, this virtual talk with this monument precisely because it is a long forgotten gem. It is the oldest structure in Ajmer. It is one of the oldest mosques in North India. It, along with the Qubbatul Islam Mosque in Qutub Minar complex, got built in around the same time. This was finished in 1199. And here we go. Okay, so this is what the 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 facade of the mosque looks like. It was originally built by Kutubuddin Aibak, and it's said that Iltutmish also added this screen wall, so to speak, in front of it. It has these beautiful arches. It is a seven-arched mosque, as you can see, and the central arch is really beautiful. It originally had two fluted minarets, as you can see at the top of the central arch, one of which has got partially damaged, and behind that is the converted temple into a mosque. So this is the Adhai Deen Ka Jhopda. Okay, so this is the picture which I had posted while I was announcing this talk. This was the cover photo. It's a beautiful side angle of this screen, the mosque screen, so to speak. By the way, Adai Din Ka Jhopda got its name. There are several theories. Some people say that um, it was just quickly cobbled together in 2.5 days because the king, who is Muhammad Ghori, wanted a mosque to be quickly erected out of the rubble of the temples and all, and it was just put into this shape together and quickly. Not exactly this shape. This was given. The shape was given by Iltutmish a little later. But talking about the origin of the name, the other is many people say that Sufis, it goes to the Sufi theory that nothing is permanent, everything is temporary. So, dhai din. So, we are here for a very short time and then we go away. So, and some people also say that there used to be a fair, a sort of urus, which was celebrated here for dhai din, 2.5 days, to celebrate the departed saint. This another angle of Adai Din Ka Jhopda. Yeah. Now I'll take you for a closer scrutiny of this monument. It looks really stunning. Adai Din Ka Jhopda central arch looks like this. People, beautiful calligraphy in Arabic in various scripts on the entire facade. It's magnificent. I was really blown away when I saw this particular arch. It is beautiful version of a scalloped arch and amazing calligraphy all over. Not even an inch is left by the mason in its beautification. By the way, all the masons were Hindus and all the overseers were Afghans. Muhammad Ghori came from Afghanistan and yeah, from a place called Gaur. Okay, people, this is the mihrab of Adai Din Ka Jhopda, and it's needless to say, it is quite a spectacular sight. It's in white and it's beautiful. And on a closer scrutiny, you can have a look at the nakashi, the carvings. It's beautiful. So these are the pillared hall of the Adai Din Ka Jhopda mosque, and you can see Hindu motifs, Hindu and Jain motifs on the pillars. You can see dancing statues and some statues of gods who have been sort of removed, but we can see the outline for sure very much, and the ceilings are absolutely gorgeous. The ceilings are gorgeous, just like in a temple. And this is the mihrab and the central gumbad, the dome, the central dome. This is how it looks like. Yeah. I wanted to capture this picture so as to give a closer view of how the Kufic script of Arabic and all these ayats from the Quran may be mentioned here. And you can see that Chinese knot structure also, which is very prevalent in all these buildings. It's also seen in the Qubbatul Islam Mosque in Delhi, in Qutub Minar premises. So, quite stunning. These two mosques are twins, by the way. They have exactly same style, almost same style. This looks so lyrical. It's lyrical beauty in stone. I mean, the words and the ayats and the floral motifs at the back. It's quite stunning. So guys, I clicked this picture for a closer view of the deities who are visible, clearly visible over here on the Adai Din Ka Jhopda pillars. Just have a look. Some dancing apsaras and some gods. It used to be a Saraswati temple. Yeah, it's beautiful. Look at this, guys. It's quite stunning. It is a hidden gem. I suggest everyone who goes to Ajmer, please visit this. It is very close to the famous dargah. People go to dargah, nobody goes here. It is just a stone's throw from the dargah, and just ask anybody and you'll reach there in a jiffy. Isn't it stunning, guys? It's beautiful. Look at the ceiling. Wow, look at the ceiling. It is just like that in a temple. I've seen so many Hindu and Jain temples with this lotus motif ceiling. This is beautiful. Concentric circles, and then amazing work by the sculptors. Some more of the ceiling for you, and so yeah, Alexander Cunningham, the founder of Archaeological Survey of India, had lots of praise for this monument, and he was not wrong. Okay. So that was our first monument, Adhai Teen Ka Jhopda. Now we are going chronologically. So the oldest buildings comes first. So that was the first. It was finished in 1199. And then now we move to the second oldest monument in Ajmer, which is the Dargah Sharif, which is the grave, the tomb of the famous Sufi saint of South Asia, Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. And he came from Chisht, which is in Afghanistan on the border of Iran, from a province called Herat. And he was such a simple person, just like a Sufi is. And he came and made Ajmer his base, and all he did was love people, help the needy and the poor, and people got attracted to him in droves. And all he said was to spread love and compassion and helping the widows, the poor, and the needy, and that's how his fame grew, in all the directions, manyfold, and very quickly, in very quick time. And so he died in 1325, and his grave is here. And kings thereafter kept adding to the structure, and right from Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Iltutmish before him, down to Humayun, Akbar has added several things which I'll let you know soon. Jahanara Begum has added the enclosure and the portico to the grave. Then Jahangir, Shah Jahan has built a mosque, Shahjahani Mosque, right down to Aurangzeb, who built the Sandali Mosque inside the premises. And so Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, let me tell you guys, is very well known as Garib Nawaz also. So why Garib Nawaz? So Garib Nawaz means that he was the keeper of he was like this kindred spirit of the poor. The person who is like the almighty of the poor. And Khwaja is nothing but a term used for a Sufi fakir. So he is this Muslim ascetic, simple Spartan living, and very all he did was spread love. And he made India and Ajmer his home, and Ajmer is a blessed land because of his grave being there. And it's magnetic. I cannot explain how many times I've been there. I was raised in Ajmer, and whenever any relatives used to come, the first place I used to visit was this place. And I have visited it umpteen times, and each time I go there, I feel the magic is just the same. And so we'll go into the virtual trip down the corridors of the Dargah, starting from the facade, the main entrance. Okay, so the main entrance of the Dargah looks like this. This is the main entrance, the facade of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti's Dargah. It's called Nizam Gate. It is the Nizam Gate, okay? And it is quite a huge, gargantuan gate. When you stand in front of it, you are totally dwarfed. So this was when I clicked it during daytime. This is when I clicked it during night time. I wanted you to have a look in both, how it looks in day, how it looks at night. It's a very congested market, and this Dargah appears as this shining beacon of hope and blessing at the end of this long bazaar. This is the second major gate which comes. It's the Shahjahani Darwaza, and it is gilded and it looks pretty, and it has got several ayats written on it. And this was obviously constructed by Shah Jahan. That's how it acquired its name. And as mentioned in this picture, it's the Akbari Masjid. It was built by Akbar. Uh, so, by the way, Akbar came here. So, Akbar came to the Dargah very, very frequently. He was extremely fond of Khwaja Sahib Dargah, and uh, he he almost had this he was eternally grateful for the birth of Salim. Although Salim Chishti's Dargah is there in Fatehpur Sikri, and he is the descendant and a disciple of Garib Nawaz only, but originally Akbar felt that he owed it to the Garib Nawaz, and that's why almost every at least 12 times it's documented he came from Agra to Ajmer, and that's why the palace and the fort, which we will see later on, got built, because the royal entourage used to stay there, and not less than 12 times he must have come, and it's said that he used to walk barefoot uh, in in gratefulness and extreme gratitude to the fakir. So Akbari Masjid, as we can see, built by Akbar. And then this is a very, very interesting thing I want to tell you. This is so Akbar donated two huge degs. Deg is nothing but a huge cauldron. Okay, so this is the Bada Deg, and there's another Choti Deg. So these degs are actually used to make Langar Sharif, they call it. So they make langar over here and donate it amongst the poor and the needy who are. It's considered extremely pious thing to do, because that's what Garib Nawaz himself used to do when he was alive. And as you can see, a lot of people have thrown in anaj, which is the cereals, and lots of cash donations. So these are offerings to the Garib Nawaz and to be used to make Langar Sharif for the poor. So this is the Bada Deg, and actually in this Deg and in the Choti Deg, they prepare rice, and they make two types of rice. One is the Zarda, which is the sweet rice, the other is the Namkeen rice, and also jaw is used. Jaw was very dear to Garib Nawaz, and this Langar Sharif is donated to the poor and the needy. So this is a huge cauldron. It was donated by Akbar, by the way. So this is how it looks like. These are several steps on which you have to climb to see what it is inside. So I climbed all of this. So this is, so on the side is the place where you put the firewood inside, and this is the Bada Deg, and that, my friends, is the Chota Deg, the Choti Deg, and you can see food being cooked over there, because the langar is supposed to be given away. It is rice, sweet and salty, and also jaw, and yeah. So both these degs were donated by Akbar. This is a very interesting building. My friends, this is the place where the Urs of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti is celebrated. So Urs, as you know, is the death anniversary of a Sufi saint, and Urs or Urus literally means in Arabic wedding. So it's almost like a wedding. So once the Sufi dies, it's the union with the God and the Almighty. So it's a very happy occasion. So it's like a wedding and a celebration of sorts. So here for 6 days the Urs is celebrated, and the 6th day, the Chati Sharif, which is it's called, is the most auspicious day amongst all 6 days, and day and night over here the Qawwalis are sung, and the zikr and other things, as they say, happens, and it's a sight to behold. So this is the place where the Urs is celebrated, in this colonnaded hall. So I thought, let me capture this. This is the magnificent picture of the Dargah, the main central dome with its beautiful finial, its signature finial. This is how the Dargah main building looks like. So the grave is underneath it. And by the way, Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, he made his successor. He said his successor is going to be Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki in Mehrauli. And if you notice, if you've been to Kaki's Dargah, it's quite similar to the dome, and the finial is quite similar to this because uh, Kaki's spiritual teacher is resting over here, and Kaki was the successor. Also, one more very interesting thing is that the Chillaga of Baba Farid or Ganj Shakar of Pak Patan Ajodan, which is now in Pakistan, that Chillaga is here only, just a little further away from this building. Okay, so this is a very, very beautiful and pious site. This is the Jannati Darwaza, as they say. This is the Jannati Darwaza, and as you see, people are thronging over there. They tie Mannat ka dhaga, as in a thread which one ties for their wishes to be completed. So this is the Jannati Darwaza, and this is the view from Shah Jahani Masjid. So I was sitting there and clicking this picture. Quite surreal and beautiful. So this is the main entrance of. So we are walking towards the main entrance of Dargah. This is the main entrance of the Dargah. Beautiful gilded walls and pillars and lovely Arabic calligraphy, and the jhoomers and the chandeliers look quite stunning. This is the main entrance of the Dargah. I was not allowed to take pictures from inside this. This looks good. Yeah. Okay. So that finishes the second major structure, the most famous of them actually, the Dargah of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. And now we go to the Ajmer Fort, Ajmer Palace, which was built in 1570 by Akbar, and it houses the palace, the fort. It's square in shape. It has octagonal bastions on all four sides. This is the place where Haldi Ghati's planning was done. This is the place where later on Jahangir met Thomas Roe, and Thomas Roe got the permission to. So Thomas Roe was representing East India Company. He met Jahangir at this Akbar Palace, and he was finally given permission. The East India Company was given permission to set up some business at Surat. So this is the place where Thomas Roe met Jahangir, and this is the place where the entire royal entourage of the Mughals used to stay when they used to visit Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti's Dargah from Agra. Okay, so this is now the government museum in Ajmer, and this is how the facade, the main entrance looks like. Um, Quite beautiful. Yeah, I wanted you to see the jharokas, then the brackets of the entrance. Very unique jharoka, and the classic Rajput Mughal architecture. Yeah, this is how the entrance is. So that in front is the main palace of the of the main palace, Akbar's fort, and this is the view from the Akbar's fort towards the outside. So those two jharokas are the ones who were there they are at the top of the main entrance gate. So this is the other view. And these cannons are from that time only. It's a spectacular moment, a picture that I thought should be captured. Looks quite good. Moving on. This is another angle um, to capture the Akbar's palace. So this is the structure where Haldi Ghati was planned. This is the place where Thomas Roe met Jahangir and got the permission for East India Company to set foot in the country. It's a very, very historic place. Not many people know this. Hardly anyone goes there. It's the museum now, and I could not cover the artifacts of the museum. It's stunning. You must go there. Another view of the pillars. They look mighty spectacular. Yeah. Okay. So this brings us to the second last structure, which is a stunning work in marble. It's music in the marble, right? So this is the Baradari. It is called the Anasagar Baradari, and it was built by Shah Jahan in around 1670, and it has 5 pavilions. These are marble pavilions. So Baradari is marble pavilion, and this is where he used to spend time next to this beautiful Anasagar lake. And Anasagar lake gets its name from Arona Raja, who was the grandfather of Prithviraj Chauhan. And it's a beautiful place, as we'll see. And in fact, one of the pavilions is modeled after the Diwan-e Khas of Red Fort. So let's dive into it. Yeah. So this is the Baradari, one of the pavilions, one of the marble pavilions of the Baradari in next to the Anasagar Lake in Ajmer, and you can see how beautifully it is made. See, yeah. The traditional Mughal symbols are all there. Yeah, quite beautiful. So, so the Mughals used to come and stay here, and it's fascinating breeze blows throughout the day, and it is so soothing. It is amazing. The views are stunning, and the breeze is like you have to experience it. I cannot explain it. Yeah, some more views of the Baradari, and there you can see in the background the Aravali Hills, and that's the lake. A closer look of this beautiful work in marble, the Anasagar Baradari, built by Shah Jahan. There's also Hammam, which has been now closed, and there is Daulat Bagh, made by, it's a pleasure garden built by Jahangir, which I didn't have time to cover, but that's very close to this place. Yeah, this is the stunning view from this Baradari. Isn't it gorgeous? With all these birds flying over this lovely lake called the Anasagar Lake, named after the grandfather of Prithviraj Chauhan, Arona Raja. So from Arona Raja comes the name Anasagar, and these birds are frolicking over this placid, lovely water. And by the way, the famous Hindu pilgrimage town of Pushkar is beyond those hills. It's quite a stunning sight. Another picture of a closer look of this uh, marble Baradari built by Shah Jahan, and the details are there for you to see. Quite magnificent. Now, since I'm emotionally attached to this city of my childhood, I wanted many other views to be here, so they are here. That's the Tara Garden in the back in the center, and that's the magnificent sunset visible. These are the beloved hills, part of our childhood, my childhood. And these pelicans are enjoying themselves over here. And people from Ajmer would instantly recognize that hill over there. So there's a place called Naka Madar right on top of that big Aravali hill. Okay, so now We come to our last stop, and this is called Soni Ji Ki Nasiya, or the Lal Mandir, or the Sone Ka Mandir, and it is stunning. You must come to this place. Nobody comes here. It is a ticketed monument, and you must visit. There's this place called Swarnim Nagri at the backside of this temple, and we'll have a look at that. That is a sight to behold. So this is a Digambar Jain temple dedicated to Lord Adinath, the first of the 24 Tirthankars of Jains. He's also revered here, and so this temple and the Swarn Nagri at the back depicts his 5 life stages and also conception of the Jain's view of the universe. So we'll see that in a bit. First, so it's a beautiful red sandstone monument, red Karoli sandstone, which is very famous, and it was built by Lal Chand Soni in 1895, and it's pretty new, but still quite old. And just have a look at this. Yeah. So this is the Manas Tamba. It's a 80 feet long column of marble which has beautiful decorations and statues of the Jain Tirthankars. And this is the main entrance of the temple. It's in red Karoli sandstone with beautiful nakashi all over. And yeah, another stunning entrance. These are the steps through which you enter this Jain Mandir, the Soni Ji Ki Nasiya, and not many people, hardly anybody in Ajmer has seen this, let alone the outsiders or the tourists. Another view of the Manas Tamba with those beautiful elephants at the base and the temple in the background. So it's a beautiful play of red sandstone and marble. So this is the entrance. This is the beautiful black and white tile work. I wanted to capture this of the temple. This is the shikhar of the Soni Ji Ki Nasiya, or the Lal Mandir. The word Lal Mandir because obviously it's red sandstone and it's quite stunning. This is how the temple looks from a distance. I mean, I must have gone to my school a million times passing this temple, but never been inside. But as luck would have it, only recently when I visited Ajmer, I made it sure that I must visit this, and I ticked it off my bucket list. It's stunning. So this is the Swarn Nagri. As we can see, it is so gorgeous that the pictures do not do justice to the real thing. You must visit this. So these are gilded objects depicting various life stages of Adinath, the 5 life stages of Adinath, the first Jain Tirthankar, and they depict Ayodhya, as Jains believe Ayodhya is the place where he was born, and Mount Sumeru, where the angels took him, and Jalabhishek was done on Mount Sumeru. So this is the depiction of Mount Sumeru. Check out the walls and the ceilings. This is a work of art. Must visit. So it is at a couple of levels. So I clicked from the ground floor. This is a view from the top. Look at these angels and the gods sitting in various palkis, and they're flying in, some are flying on swans, some are flying on elephants, and they are flying all over this beautiful Nagri, Swarn Nagri that has been created. It's all gilded, gold plated. Almost 1,000 kgs of gold has been used to paint wooden objects, and all this work was done in Jaipur and then shifted to Ajmer. Look at that. Quite stunning. Marvelous. So that, my friends, is the depiction of the Ayodhya Nagri, the king's palace. And down below you can see the procession of people going, and quite marvelous. And this is how the viewing galleries look like. This is the viewing gallery, and these are the niches from where the visitors can look down, gaze down upon that Swarna Nagri, because one cannot enter. And yeah, quite stunning. The play of yellow and uh, indigo. Another view of the Swarna Nagri, this magnificent abode of gods and goddesses and Adinath's 5 life stages. It is chock-a-block with intricate mural work and stunning work on the ceiling, on the walls, and down below the Ayodhya Nagri. We can see the domes of the Nagri down below, and the gods flying in mid-air with these beautiful gilded wooden pieces hanging by a thread from the ceiling. So that's how this 3D image and this world is created, which is magnificent. Another view, my friends, of the gods and goddesses for you. And down below we can see the Jambu Dweep. That circular thing is the Jambu Dweep with Mount Sumeru at the center. And these gods smiling benignly upon this gorgeous sight. Yeah, that's the circular Jambu Dweep with Sumeru, Mount Sumeru at the center of it. And as per the Jain Shastras, this is Mount Sumeru, and the top of this Adinath ji was given a Abhishekam, and then once he was born, and this is one of the 5 life stages of Adinath. Okay, with that, we come to the end of this lovely webinar, and I thoroughly enjoyed. I hope you did too. And thank you very much. And that's it. So if you have any questions, please post them. Let me have a look. Okay. Yes, Chandrasekhar, the pillars of the Adai Din Ka Jhopda are quite similar to that of the Qutub Mosque, because the builders were same, Qutubuddin Aibak, and so both the mosques, they are twins actually. These mosques are twins. Swati, I'm sorry, I can't understand what was written in Arabic. The ayats of Quran were written on the facade of the mosque in Adai Din Ka Jhopda. I can't make it out what it was. Ajmer Fort, yes, Parul. Light and sound show happens there, and thank you, Pooja. Oh, really, Shweta? Stunning views of Anasagar, yes. It is very peaceful, very, very relaxing. You just go and sit on the Baradari next to the Anasagar, and all your worries will just vanish. Try it, those who haven't. Yes, Parul, Anasagar is much more beautiful. Yeah, it's getting more beautiful day by day because the pollution is down and migratory birds come and roost over here. As I said, I showed you the pelicans also were roosting over there. Oh, Nakamadar, Parul is your place. Cool, nice. Okay, maybe Pushkar next time, Parul. Why not? Why not? So, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I liked presenting it to you. And see you sometime soon. Bye bye. Take care.